Morning, everyone. Before I talk about this year's budget, I want to speak just briefly about last year's budget. And I want to offer my thanks and appreciation to the citizens of Houston for their patience and understanding as we dealt with a very difficult economy and its impact on services in the city of Houston. I want to thank very sincerely the city employee groups who worked with us, the city employees who took voluntary and mandatory furloughs last calendar year, the city employees who saw their colleagues laid off, the city employees who picked up the slack as they did more with fewer. The good news was that we were the only major city that I'm aware of that was able to make it through these last very difficult few years without laying off a single police officer, without laying off a single firefighter, and with the preservation of most city services. So again, a big thank you to the citizens of Houston, but an even bigger thank you to the city workforce who continue to do a really excellent job under very difficult circumstances. And I also want to add my appreciation to the department directors who have worked with me in crafting this budget under the direction of Mr. Kelly Dow, Finance Director of the City of Houston. He and his staff have done yeoman's work on this budget, but they've done it on top of a couple of really stressful years where any person in his position would have struggled, and they have risen to the task over and over again. Today, I send to City Council a $4.54 billion proposed total city budget for the fiscal year that begins July 1. The general fund portion of the budget, the tax-supported portion of the budget, is $2.08 billion. Once again, this budget does not include a tax increase. It maintains my focus on 5 priorities: jobs and sustainable development, infrastructure, public safety, quality of life, and strong fiscal responsibility. As a reflection of the improved economy, the budget does not include service cuts or layoffs of city personnel. It does not launch a number of new initiatives. It holds the line with no layoffs and no service cuts. Due to very strict, prudent fiscal management of the city during the past 2 budget cycles, we have sufficient funding, as I said, to maintain my priorities in this next year. And I want to state again, as I have a number of times, that the city of Houston is better off financially than virtually any other big city in America. And we have been blessed with a stronger local economy. It's been difficult, but we have persevered, and we are coming out of it better than other regions of the United States. This is a balanced budget that maintains the existing property tax rate of 63.875 cents per $100 of taxable value. It does not include any new fees, nor does it rely on any major land sales to balance this budget. For the 3rd year in a row, this budget does not include the use of pension obligation bonds. And in fact, we will not use pension obligation bonds while I'm mayor. Nor does this budget include the issuance of any other long-term debt to meet current expenses. It is generally a flat budget in terms of departmental programs, with the exception of contractual increases for pensions, health benefits, fuel, electricity, and information technology costs. The reason I say it's a flat budget in terms of the departments, it's a flat budget in terms of the programs and services we provide, but there are fixed costs that have risen that we have accommodated in this budget. Increased revenues that came in above these contractually fixed costs were used strategically. They weren't spread across the board. We will continue our support for economic growth and job creation. We will maintain our business-friendly practices. We will also continue our very robust Hire Houston First program, which now includes 250 registered Houston firms, and we believe that that number will continue to grow. Due to several projects currently in the discussion phase, I anticipate building on the $1 billion of economic development that we did over the last year with direct city involvement, and we will increase the more than 13,000 jobs that we created in the last year. As you already know, more than two-thirds of the city budget is devoted to public safety. There are some changes in this budget. We have included $5 million set aside in contingent funding for the proposed Houston Forensic Science Center. The City Council will be asked in June to appoint the board members and formally create the local government corporation to allow us to create this independent regional forensic science center. I'm setting aside $5 million in the budget so that once that is created, once they get their arms around the operating costs, if they need more support, the revenue has been, or the funding has been identified. If not, that funding can be used to finally address the backlog of untested rape kits. And we believe that that will be one of the highest priorities of the new regional forensic science center. There's also $2 million in funding new to the budget for the Sobering Center, which I believe Council will pass tomorrow. The Sobering Center is something that will benefit us in the short term and the long term, freeing up jail space for more serious offenders, streamlining and reducing processing time. Police officers will be able to return to patrol faster, but it's part of our long-term mission to reduce population in our jail and get out of the jail business entirely. So short-term gains, but a long-term necessity. I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez for bringing the issue of a sobering center forward and working with me as we navigated through that. But you'll see money in this budget set aside for the initial startup costs there. This will be the second year of Rebuild Houston. Not general fund funded. This is an enterprise. You will find the enterprise funds in this budget as well. But almost 30 new projects for street and drainage improvements valued at approximately $250 million are planned for this year. Many of those projects would not be done without the voters stepping up, approving the drainage fee that allowed us to begin the Rebuild Houston program. As I said earlier, unlike 2012, we're not going to cut swimming pool hours. We're not going to cut back on library hours. Libraries will be open on Saturday. Unfortunately, we're going to have to continue to remove trees lost to the drought, but we will also replant trees across the city with our community partners. But you'll see another $1 million in funding identified, may not be needed, but identified in the budget to deal with continued tree removal on public property. You're going to see expansion of single-stream recycling. We've planned for it. We've been discussing it for a while. Doesn't get us recycling, single-stream recycling at every household, but we are continuing to expand recycling as aggressively as we can, absent any new fees to fund that program. Even with this very tight economy and all the sacrifices we made over the last budget, we have been able to build up our unallocated reserve. As you know, by city ordinance, we maintain a 5% reserve. In terms of prudent fiscal practice, we maintain a 7.5% reserve. We were below that 7.5%. It is back up to above 7.5%, and we will leave it there. But we are using some fund balance above that amount to restore some things into the budget. As we end 2012, I'm taking fund balance and putting $5 million back into the rainy day fund, and I am budgeting another $5 million in 2013 into the rainy day fund. So we will have $10 million cash available in the rainy day fund, and it will be now 50% funded. Another commitment we made to the public when we tapped that money in what we considered our rainy day in terms of the Houston budget. I'm excited about the progress we've been able to make on the major 5 priorities of this administration. I am hopeful that the challenges that we still see ahead of us will continue to be met with a brighter economy. This is a conservative budget, but it is a budget that takes care of the needs of the citizens of Houston, maintains our necessary reserves, puts money back into the rainy day fund, holds the line on taxes, does not take on new debt for current expenses, such as using pension obligation bonds, and has only one unusual element, and I'll go ahead and lay it out, and that is, as per our agreement with the police pension last year, and I thank the Police Officers Union and the Police Officers Pension for their work on this. We are actively marketing our police building, and through an agreement with the police pension last year, we are deferring their pension payment as we market the building, and they have, as per the agreement last year, if we successfully conclude a sale of the 1200 Travis Police Building, they will benefit from that sale and with the transfer into their pension budget. But and so we are deferring an $8.5 million payment to the police pension. Thank you, Mr. Dow. So we continue on our efforts to make sure that Houston remains the best place in America to live, to work, to raise a family, and we will do whatever we can to support the local economy, but also to make sure that we run this city in a fiscally prudent manner and lead the rest of the country into a better economy in the future. Mr. Dow, have I forgotten anything?
No, ma'am.
I know everybody's had an opportunity to glance through this, right? You have lots of questions. Okay, questions?
How many more households will get single-stream recycling this coming fiscal year?
Mr. Hayes has said that he believes at least 30,000 can get them, but you'll need to have a direct conversation with him, because my challenge to him with no new money is that we have squeezed most of this expansion of our single-stream recycling out of efficiencies in the solid waste department, and he continues to work magic over there.
Is the 8.5 million in deferred pension payments, is that part of last year's?
It's part of last year's deal. It's not a new deal. It's part of last year's deal.
And just to clarify, you said $2 million for the sobering center, but tomorrow's item is $4.3 million, right?
General fund revenue to operate the sobering center. What's on tomorrow is we are using some capital dollars to build out, because not only are we putting the sobering center there, we are also consolidating our crisis response mental health unit into the same location.
So the $2 million's operating, and the $4 million's
correct.
Fix up the warehouse.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And on the $5 million for the crime lab, if it's not used for rape kits, if it is used for
we are setting aside an additional $5 million. Our goal is to create this regional forensic science center with the same operating budget that it has today. We believe that under the new structure, it can operate more efficiently, and they'll actually have more money available. But we have identified $5 million that can either be used to supplement the operations or is available once this new center is up and running for them to use to tackle some longstanding problems like the backlog of rape kits.
So it's not to move out, it's whatever they might need to, once they've looked under the hood and decided how expensive this is to do.
We want them to look under the hood, to have these independent experts evaluate it. Their first task, should council choose to create the local government corporation and approve the board, is to find a lab director to oversee the combined forensic science center. What we have today is the crime lab, which does a piece of it, and then a range of forensic services that are scattered throughout the Houston Police Department. We are combining everything with existing budget into one operation, but it will not, we're not saying they have to go out and find new space, go out and build a new facility. We're asking them to operate a virtual forensic center at the beginning, figure out what the real operating needs are, and then determine where that should be located. Again, we maintain that we are operating right now on a parallel track with Harris County. We fully expect in the future to have a regional crime lab or a regional forensic center in conjunction with other government partners. And you know, we hope that we'll be operating together with Harris County in the future.
And given that Houston First could potentially, I guess, cost the city some money because it's based on a preference for local firms that may actually submit a higher budget, is there a line item that it attaches a cost to that?
No. And while there may be a very small, and it is a very small, incremental cost for implementing Houston First, there have only been a couple of instances where we have invoked Houston First. One being our long-term electricity provider with Reliant, which was lower, yeah, significantly lower than the current contract, so it had no immediate impact. While there may be a very small incremental increase on an individual contract, keeping those dollars circulating through the Houston economy boosts the revenue side through sales tax, through our property values. Anybody else have any questions?
Mayor, how is it, I mean, was it different going through this year's budget, just emotionally, because you didn't have to lay off people going in? I mean, we all remember
Yes.
how tough it was last year. Can you compare the process? Was it just easier, or?
This was a much easier budget to construct from a financial standpoint. Revenues were up, and we had already made the really difficult cuts last year, the significant number of layoffs. And so going into this budget, realizing that we wouldn't have to start with massive layoffs across the city of Houston made it a much easier process, a much less emotionally taxing process. That doesn't mean that this is a flush budget. It doesn't mean that it was easy. There are some compromises in this budget and some very careful and strategic decisions about what we do with the revenue coming in. We built up fund balance. We thought it was prudent to begin to replenish the rainy day fund. That's $10 million going into the rainy day fund. That $10 million could have gone to rehire city employees. It could have gone to restorations of services. So there's a balancing act here. But this was a much easier budget just from an emotional standpoint, absolutely.
What is realistically and legitimately on your wish list that you couldn't get on this budget this year?
Well, I would love to do single stream recycling for every household in the city of Houston. And I can tell you that the citizens of Houston are pleading for new recycling dollars. I would love to expand swimming pool hours across the city of Houston. We have a We have restored the hours, but I'd love to see an expansion of those hours. Love to be able to do more after-school programming. Again, what we've done is held the line on services. We haven't been able to expand in ways that I would like to see. But overall, I'm pleased with the budget, and I believe that it will serve the citizens of Houston well.
And you're still not into the whole garbage fee thing for more recycling?
We have the budget.
Would you consider it?
Actually, we are going through the recommendations of the Long-Range Financial Management Task Force. There were a number of things that they suggested, and I believe that that was one of the things that they asked us to study. I don't have to study it. Mr. Hayes, the solid waste director, has the numbers for that. I'm not planning on presenting it. We are doing a pilot project to create an enterprise fund on our transfer stations. It won't have any impact on the public, but we will. It is not part of this budget. But I would love to be able to expand recycling across this city.
We good?
All right. Thank you.